Hello, and welcome to another Sinister Sunday. Today, we're going to go over true paranormal experiences from people all over the world. Whether or not you believe in the paranormal, the people who report having these experiences are certain that when it comes to paranormal activity, they've experienced something they simply cannot explain. This week's paranormal experience, Peeping on Bigfoot's Kid, comes to you and is told by Danny from Chasing Bones Inspectors.
I want to hear. Well, I was thinking I'll tell you my cryptic one, basically. Uh, when I ran into Bigfoot a couple of times, Sasquatch or whatever you want to call him, Bigfoot. Um, yeah, I can tell you about that. You want to hear about that? When I was younger, I was out camping, right? So we're at the Indian Rock Paint face, right? So there's this huge. It's just a basic flat cliff that comes down. It's about 300 feet high. And right up near the top, there's some old native paintings, script, way up at the top, you know. So it's kind of like a place where people go to check this shit out. It's a camping site, right? So anyway, I was there. I was a young guy then. I don't know how old I was, but I was a lot younger than I am now, maybe 40 years ago. Anyway, so I was sitting there one morning. I got up, put my coffee on, on the campfire. I sat down in my chair and I looked over towards, I was looking at the rock painting, right? And I see this huge bear. At least I thought it was a bear at first, coming along the bottom, right? Okay. Well, then it stood up on its hind legs. I'm like, okay, that is no bear. And, I'm looking at it. Oh, what is it? What is it? And it wasn't a Wendigo. It wasn't a shapeshifter. And I'm looking, what is this thing, right? All of a sudden it looks at like right towards me, just looked at me. And we're quite a distance, but I figured he was looking at me, right? Like we were quite a distance apart. Anyway, he just kind of looked at me, turned towards the rock, and one arm up like this, and then the next arm up, and he scooted up this thing, and like a free climber, you know, I know a few people that climb rocks, and they're super amazing at it, right? Free climbers, right? Anyway, this thing was huge, right? And the only thing I could say that it was Bigfoot because I mean it had to be 7 foot to 8 foot tall. It was a very dark brown. And lucky for me, the wind was not blowing in my direction, so I couldn't smell it. But anyway, this thing scooted up the side of this cliff. Maybe, like I say, 30 seconds, a minute later, not even. Uh, this thing's standing at the top. Right? It gets onto the top and it takes one or two steps away from the edge, stops, turns around, looks down at me, right? And it held that for like 5, 6 seconds, just looked at me, and then kind of went like this, turned and walked away. Never saw it again, right? But it changed my perspective on, like because of my work and the things I've done and everything else. I know all kinds of different things that I've seen and dealt with, whatever. But that was the first time seeing a sash, and I was like, holy shit. So that was the very first time I ever saw one, right? And then a few years later, I was out at the homestead. And I said, well, you know what? I'm going to go camping for the night away from the homestead just to get away from everybody because we had company over. And it was rare that we had company out there. But there were so many relatives there over that weekend. They had 3 extra tents set up. I think there was like 18 people there, right? And they were there for like a week and a half, or whatever. Anyway, after a couple of days, as you can imagine, uh, always being basically by myself or, only with two or three people, it got to me, right? So I said, I'm going out, guys. I'll see you in a couple of days. So I took off, went down to Washington River, this long ass river. It goes for miles and miles, right? Anyway, so I go down to this river, and there's this one nice, really clear spot. It's a very nice clearing on the one side of the river, and I always like to sort of camp out there, right? So I went there and I set up my tent and I built my little rocks and I made a little fire and right away, of course, put the coffee on and just sitting there, just relaxing and thinking about shit, not doing anything really, just sort of sitting there. And I hear bang, 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 and I'm like, what? It's scared to shit out of me because it was so quiet, right? All of a sudden, it just really loud bang, right? So I turn and I look across the river. Now the river isn't really wide there. It's maybe a 50 foot across, 60 foot maybe across the river. I was about 10 feet, 12 feet from the edge of the water. Then about 60 feet away is the other side of the other bank on the other side. Anyway, so I'm sitting there and I turn around. And again, first thought was a bear sitting there, like leaning over, looking into the water, right? But then the weirdest thing happened, right? It picks up this huge rock over its head and smashes it onto another rock, right? Bang, bang, does a couple more times. And I'm like, what the hell, right? And then I notice it tears apart I think it was, and I can't be 100% sure, but I think it was a turtle. I think it was breaking the shell of the turtle, and it pulled the turtle apart and it started eating, right? Anyway, it starts eating and it looks over at me and it literally took a bite and then it was looking up and it looked up like this right at me and just stared at me for a second, right? So of course I went, hey, and I looked at it for a couple of seconds and then I decided, nope, I don't want to stare too long, right? So I thought, okay. So then I sat back in my chair like this, grabbed my coffee, nodded, drank my coffee, of course, kept an eye on him, on this side, eh? Started drinking my coffee, set my coffee down on the stump, and I'm watching him, but kind of not directly. And he sat there and he ate and everything else. Then he tossed whatever was left. I'm assuming, like I say, it was the turtle. He tossed the rest of it into the creek, stood up, took a step, looked, took another step, looked, took two more steps, and I couldn't see him no more. Like he took two steps into the trees, vanished, right? Like you just couldn't see him anymore. And I knew he was there because I didn't hear him walking in again. I didn't hear him going any further, but he was just two or three steps into the trees and he vanished, right? Like camouflaged so well that you could hardly see him, right? So I sat there for a couple of minutes and looked back and forth once in a while. And then all of a sudden I hear crackle, crackle, and you could hear him walking away, right? So I'm assuming he stood there and watched me for a little bit. And then he said, okay, and he took off. So I thought, okay, that's cool. So I ended up camping there a couple of days. And I was thinking, well, maybe I'll head back and see the people, but I don't really want to because I don't like them. But they did come out to see the family. So, and I was wrestling with the idea whether or not I wanted to go back. And it was early evening. I think by this time, sitting around doing nothing all day. I went and did a little bit of fishing on the creek and, just having a good day, basically doing stuff. So then I thought, well, okay. So I caught a couple fish. I think it was around 7 at night or something like that. Caught a couple more fish, and I've already had a fish. So I mean, now I got like 3 or 4 fish. So we thought, what the hell? Just for the shits and giggles, we'll see what happens. So I tossed them to the other side of the creek, like right over. And I was sitting there and cooking my fish and everything else. And finally, my fish was cooked, and I'm looking over. No, nothing happening over there. Right? So I started eating again, not paying attention, doing my own thing, and I hear splash, right? A huge splash, right? So I'm like, what the hell? And I turn over, and there, beyond anything I've ever seen before, is this monkey. For lack of a better word, it looked like a small monkey, uh, maybe a 3 foot tall, 4 foot tall monkey, right? And it's splashing in the water. And then I got so focused on that for the second, right? I didn't see nothing else for the first couple. So I'm like, what the hell? Right? And then I looked up and then I seen the one that was there yesterday, that big, huge guy, right? Anyway, he's sitting there and every once in a while he'd go like this in the water and splash the little monkey, the little one. And they were splashing back and forth. And I looked over and then he saw the fish and he grabbed the fish and they were big fish. I felt cheated because he got them all in one grab, like this, like poop, you know. Anyway, they were big fish, but he got them. And he looked up at me and he made this grunting noise, like that, right? I said, well, you're welcome, like this sort of a deal. But just because it seemed like the thing to do at the time. And then it went, and I'm like, okay, I guess that's thanks or something. I don't know what that is. Anyway, so I'm sitting there and I'm watching this little monkey one, you know, playing in the water, splashing, and the old man, he's splashing back once in a while. And all of a sudden, I don't know why, but I felt bad because I'm staring at this juvenile in the water, right? Like I felt like a pervert for some reason. I said, okay, you guys have a good time. And I turned my chair around so I wasn't staring anymore at this little monkey guy or girl, whatever it was, uh, playing in the water because I felt guilty for staring. It's weird. Anyway, so I sat there, I drank my coffee. I had already finished my fish and everything else, and a few minutes went by. Oh, all of a sudden, you hear splash, 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 splash. And then this thing that's out this big grunt, like this, was weird. And I turned around, and it's just standing there looking at me. And I says, well, hey, yeah, you have a good day. We'll see you next time, right? Now, you can't tell me that these things aren't caring and aren't loving or anything like that. Because it reached down with his hand, grabbed the hand of the little one, and went like this and flipped the little guy up on the shoulder, right? And poof, 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 walked away into the woods, right? And gone, just like that, gone. And I sat there and I listened again like last time, didn't hear nothing, dead quiet. And about 5 minutes later, you hear snap, 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 snap as it's actually leaving, right? So I got to the thinking that they're very observant, they're very caring, they're very family orientated, stuff like that. And I never had any single problems, no aggression, no nothing with them. Uh, just like they're just living their lives, whatever, right? And I heard of a lot of people say, well, they could be aggressive and they throw stones and they do all this shit and everything else. And I think about that, and maybe some are just grumpy. That's a possibility, right? On the other hand, they're hunting them. They're out actively looking to find them. They're out literally hunting them. Let me tell you, if I was in the bush and you came hunting for me or my family, you would be in some serious trouble, right? Like if I'm in the woods and and it happens because I've been in the woods a lot, and you run across a few people that say, hey, how are you? Everything and whatever, right? There's never an issue. Everybody's friendly. Everything's good. If you come hunting for me, it's going to be a different story altogether, right? So these things are obviously very intelligent, right? And if they know that you're trying to find where they live, that's where their children are, that's where their wives or their husbands are, and you're hunting them to find out where they live, they may get aggressive, like I would. I don't know you from Adam, and you're running around my neighborhood looking for me for no apparent reason. Now, I don't know if you just want to take pictures. I don't know if you're coming with negative intent. I don't know if you want to shoot me, but I'm not going to take any chances. You might just want to come and have a cup of coffee. I don't know this, right? I'm thinking a lot of the times when these negative things happen, have you stopped to think about what your actions were before that action took place? Like, were you doing something? If you turn the tables, if you're what you're looking for, have you done something that might have put them on high alert? So anyway, that's my experiences with them.
Do you have a paranormal experience you wish to share? Please contact me on Messenger and I'll be happy to share your story. Thank you again for watching another Sinister Sunday. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing, like this video, and share it out. Please check out our Sinister Sunday playlist for more content like this. We'll see you next week.